Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar which is going to present our product range at Hiphen named PhenoScale, which is about our suites of solutions to process data from drones for high throughput phenotyping. Today, here is myself that is present for this webinar and Alexandra. So I will introduce myself first. I'm the CEO and founder of Hiphen, and I made my PhD in 2013 about high throughput phenotyping, so probably one of the first batch of PhD on this topic. And then I founded straight away Hiphen in order to give value to this initial research. Alexandra?
So hello everyone, I'm Alexandra Bergi. I'm an R&D project manager at Hiphen. I joined Hiphen last May, and well, I'm really happy to be here to give innovations and new technologies to our clients. As you may know at Hiphen, we transform your agricultural images into valuable phenotypic data. Because we have a deep agronomic knowledge, but we also use artificial intelligence. We have automated data processing so that you, in the end, you can easily make the best decisions about your trades. We use a lot of different images. So we work with smartphones, but also fixed systems, field robots, satellites, and for sure, we also work with drone images. We are now a team of about 20 agtech experts, and well, your main contacts will be Alexis and myself, but also our COO Raphael, our CTO Joss, our R&D director Jeremy, and also our two business developers Bruno and Lee. Today, we want to introduce you to our PhenoScale solution. So this is how you can scale up your crop assessments with drones. So today we will show you the different traits that we can compute with drones, and also how you can easily implement drones into your breeding program. But yes, we also would like to show you that we are here, that we will always advise you about the right drone devices, the best sensors, and all the other equipment that you may need.
Thank you, Alexandra. So maybe the first topic on which we will cover on this 20-minute webinar is why should you choose PhenoScale? And so the question of why PhenoScale, I guess the first competition against PhenoScale is why are you not doing it yourself? Most of the reasons we can give you is that it's a hard process to do, and we at Hiphen are trying to go up to the decision making for you. So we can think about two types of decision making. First type of decision making would be if you're having different treatments in your trials, to be able to sort you with different treatments in different ways, and this in a kind of timely manner. So we're able to deliver you up to 5 days after you send us the data to Cloverfield. We could do even faster if it's your needs. The other types of sorting we can show you is to be able to sort cultivars in your breeding process during the trial, while the trial is being made. So you're able to have some data before harvest, as we know that breeders are always constrained by the fact that just after harvest they need to take decisions. So they always have 2 to 3 weeks to take all their decisions and to look at all their data. Using PhenoScale and tools with Hiphen, we're doing our best to make sure that you're able to understand what's happening in your trial before the harvest, so that part of those decisions are done in advance. So how does it work exactly? First, what are the kind of actionable use case we have and that we can mention? Well, the first thing that we've seen that has great value for our customers is trial quality assessment. You're having sometimes hundreds of trials. sometimes there's tens of trails spread across many countries, or at least several regions. You're having sometimes those trails are made with CROs, so you're not the one owning the trail. And you don't really know if your trail worth harvesting, if you should stop it straight away because it just didn't, the emergence didn't happen well. I mean, there can be many things linked to nature, not linked to the fact that people are working wrongly, but just the fact that we're making agriculture that makes that your trail it doesn't worth further investigation. And today, that's where we make most of our business. So it's about making flying drones and telling you, okay, your trail is homogeneous. Okay, there are some huge defaults in those microplots, and then you're able to take an enlightened decision whether you want to continue spending on these trails or you should stop the bleeding because anyway, it doesn't have much value. The second use case, as I showed you, and that we're already doing with some customers, is product evaluation assessment. So how can I try to assess if my product is having effect or not, even if I don't see it on the yield or before I'm having my yield. So basically, what is the probability that my trial and my treatments, if I use chemicals or biostimulants or whatever, what's the probability that I'm going to see that there's an effect, on one trait, like VF cover, I don't know what, and because I see an effect at that stage, it's worth harvesting it to look at what are going to be the difference in yield. But it also can be used to say, okay, I don't see any difference on yield, or I see a negative difference on yield, or I see things I don't want to see. Did I see an effect on where it's supposed to simulate it? And there's a whole theory that will not go through today, but at least where we can help our customers on. The third thing is really about genomic selection, so helping breeders at every stage making their selections and using this big data and this genomic information in ways that has not been done before, or eventually with some breeders, but quite few. And the last thing that we're seeing is about helping making support management tools. And the support management tools are always based on yield prediction. So can I predict or can I build models enabling me to know what is going to be the yield of my cultivars in a given environment and that I can reuse into support management tools. So that's really the use cases we're using today with our customers on PhenoScales. So I hear the sound is very bad. Is it better like that? We have yeah. Um, I hope it's better like that. I don't really know how to improve it otherwise. Um, okay, so if it's good, perfect. And finally, those types of use case I demonstrated you can be done on any type of cultivars and species, whether it's plants in rows, contiguous covers, plant by plant. So we do more and more, especially on sunflowers, plant by plant analytics, or even by pots. I mean, the creativity is your limit. We can also think about cucurbitacea, where we're going to look at the fruits and the vegetables. Really, the sky is the limit on what we can do with drones and how we can support you. So, how can we get started, Alexandra?
So this is really easy. So the first step that you need to do is to choose a trait, one trait, more traits, because depending on the trait, well, you have to buy the appropriate equipment. So we are there to advise you to, well, if you need maybe a standard drone or some more high definition sensors. When this is done, well, maybe you need some training, well, you, or I mean more the drone pilots, to acquire really good images with the best quality possible. And then, well, we can analyze your data. We will deliver the results and also, well, some more analytics. But, well, maybe it's the first time that you use drone for agriculture. So we also help you to implement drones into the research program. So this needs some steps. The first 2 steps is only once. So the first step will be to define the breeders, who will fly the drone, who will manage the project, and so on. After this, you need to know if it's really possible to fly over your different fields, or if there are some legal issues. If this is done, well, as I said, maybe your drone pilots need some training, and for sure you have to buy the equipment. Then we will start a recurring phase that you need to do for each breeding cycle. So here, well, you need to define the project's modalities, the traits of interests. You have to plan the season. You have to acquire the data, and then yes, we will analyze the data, and so you can start to make your decisions about your trials for the next season.
So, Alexandra, that means that we have a fully planned, a fully made implementation plan within PhenoScale.
Right.
That's, I believe, really cool, but because it wasn't like that before, when I
Yes.
started.
That means that now it's really easy to get started. Maybe for you it's also the first time that you fly a drone, at least for agriculture. So also there we are here to help you, because we launched the Hiphen Academy. So this is an e-learning platform where you can learn how to acquire research-grade imagery from drones. So here you can find a really user-friendly and intuitive platform. And there are a lot of different courses and lessons. And after each lesson, you will find a quiz just to check if you really understood what you just learned. And then, imagine that you just acquired your data. So you will load them into our web platform, Cloverfield. And then all the next steps will belong to us. It's our job to, quickly evaluate the image quality. If this quality is not okay, we will get back to you really quickly so that you have the possibility to maybe fly again. And if everything is okay with your data, we will produce a georeferenced orthomosaic. We will create a plot map, and then we will compute the traits on the best raw images before we validate the traits, and we publish the traits to Cloverfield.
So what you're suggesting, Alexandra, is that there's all the steps that are made between an acquisition and using the data from our auditors and our clients, and that can be done so quickly. That's really cool, no?
Quickly, as you said, 5 days or even quicker if you need this. And yes, you don't have to worry about all the steps. You don't have to acquire good images. Then we can deliver everything you need. This is to say, good results.
And maybe to mention, we love to open the hood. So it doesn't mean that we're doing everything, that everything is not transparent. If you want to understand the methods, if you want to understand how we're computing the traits, we're here to explain that to you.
For sure. Then, we will push back the results on Cloverfield. So here, this is, some how it will look like in Cloverfield. So you have a world map where you can see all your different sites in only one place. Then if you click on one site, you can visualize the different traits, and you can also analyze trends through time, and for sure you can download your results. If we zoom here, for example, in one of your trial site, you can see that there's a reconstructed field map, and on the left there's the list with your different traits, and you can click on each trait, and then the results will be visualized on the plot map. Also, there are different analytics integrated in Cloverfield, and we are also working to integrate a lot more analytics, so that you can relate your values and really understand your data.
So I think that's really what is important to mention. There's many different actors in your companies that are going to use the drone data. First, there's the drone pilot that wants to upload and to know if he made a good job acquiring the data and see a little bit the results to have an idea of how is the trial. But you also have the data engineers, the data scientists that will love Cloverfield to be able to drive through the plot maps, as you can see, to see when they're analyzing the traits, the yield, etc., if the outliers are real outliers that you can see in the pictures or not. And it's also a tool for the manager to see all the work that has been done and to be able to pinpoint the problems as soon as possible. So this is really what is really, really important to mention, is that we acknowledge you're having a lot of rules in your companies, and Cloverfield is made to respond to the need of each specific rules.
Well said. So let's dive a bit deeper in the different traits that we can compute with drones. So there are a lot of traits that will be, yes, the same for the different crops. But if you have a look on sunflower, we can calculate the F cover or green fraction, the vegetation indices. We can compute the plant height. We can also count plants in an early stage. We can detect gaps between plants. We can also compute the early vigor or senescence speed. And for example, for sunflowers, we can also count the flowers or estimate the flower area. Then for another crop, for example, for cereals, well, as I just said, for this crop, we can also do senescence speed or even detect by the plot quality if there are maybe some emergence issues. And for cereals, we can also count wheat heads now by drones. The last example here, maize. So here, well, in an early stage, we can also count plants. We can measure the gaps between different plants, and we can also detect tassels. But this is not all for sure. We have now a high diversity of different crops. So we have already pipelines for not only field crops, but also for fruits, vegetables, flowers, even grassland. And now it is also possible if you want to, if you're working on some other crops, that we can easily implement them into our data pipeline. Also, maybe you want to, yes, you're interested in another trait. Well, that is to say, in a trait that we do not compute routinely at Hiphen. So this is not a problem, because we are also able to, yes, to define some, to develop some customized traits. Before this, well, we will see if it is really feasible, and also think about the different methods that, yes, we could apply. After this, during a proof of concept phase, we will test the different methods and for sure validate the best one for the new trait.
So this is really the important thing to understand, is today we already have over 80 traits actionable right now in production, but we're really, really ready to make much more. And depending on the complexity and the size of the market, we can develop them for free or following a very strict proof of concept methodology where we're having very clear KPIs to guarantee you success or to stop spendings once we know it won't work. So we're very, very sensitive to that. Maybe to mention on those new traits that we're working hard, the agroclimatic traits. So what are the agroclimatic traits? All of you are already saying, hey, I am making two trails 50 kilometers apart, and I'm always having very different results. The rankings are not the same, the behaviors, the yield is not the same, and I don't know how to evaluate my cultivars because it's always very different. So we try to define some very big climatic regions, and that often helps a little bit. But we could go way further. We could go way further by defining some traits that are robust through what the crop experiences through its life. And how do you do that? First, you correct by the phenological stage. So correcting by phenological stage is very important because sometimes you will say that the cultivar is more is going to senesce earlier than the other one when it's not senescence that is faster. It's just that it's emergence that was slower or things like that. So you and all that can be taken into account combining observations, drones observations with uh, pedoclimatic data, so data from the soil and data from the climate. But it can also be about identifying the limiting factors. My limiting factors was water in one case, and in the other case, my limiting water was nitrogen. Well, of course, my ranking is going to be very different because probably my cultivars are not behaving the same way, depending whether the limiting factor is water or nitrogen. Detecting if your plant is having um, a parameter as a limiting factor and trying to compute that in a quantitative way is something that we're doing at Hiphen through agroclimatic traits. Lots of things are to improve, but at least we're trying, and what we realize is that it makes comparisons across sites, across trails, and across countries way easier and much more robust. Some illustration of what I call as agroclimatic traits: computing the total amount of light intercepted. So this is really important, and it's probably a little bit more subtle than doing just area under curves, which today is what the community does mainly. Being able to readjust this quantity of light or other traits that are integrative through the physiological stage. So instead of saying, hey, this cultivar during 30 days intercepted that amount of light or accumulated that amount of F cover, it's on the contrary to be able to say, no, no, no. During this phenological stage, this cultivar intercepted that, and if the phenological stage was faster, well, it will take that into account as well. The last thing is really water use efficiency. So we're working on it. It's models that we're working, which is under huge debates, and we already made webinars on it, and we will make new webinars soon also on the topic about trying to simulate how much the crop was supposed to use water uh, with different parameters like soil probes and F cover, and to see if the yield is conserved or not. So basically to see what is the efficiency of the use of water. So this is really something that we are doing also a lot with some customers. So that's it for this webinar, as we're already at 22 minutes. Really to sum up, PhenoScale is really something that is designed to make you save time, to make drone phenotyping easy, to scale up, to improve efficiency, to reduce labor in your trail. So you will still need some technicians, but those technicians are going to make the drone fly and collect much more data than what they could have if they were alone with their notebooks. We are working hard on delivering you timely results. As I said, 5 days is in 2021 something we achieved, in 2022 as well, and we're working hard to reduce this amount of time. And of course, it allows you to uncover new traits in order to better understand how your plant works and to explain its performance, so to make better decisions tomorrow. Here comes the questions. Nicolas, what are the questions we're having from the audience?
So hello everybody. First question from Michel. He's asking, are you already present on Polish market?
Hello, Michel. Unfortunately, we don't have customers in Poland, but as it's a fully digital service, it wouldn't pose any problem to work straight away on the Polish market. And we actually have a little bit, we're already discussing with people there. So we would be very happy to discuss further with you to understand your needs. We have some customers that are already performing their drone flights in Ukraine, in Russia, and countries over there. So we're used already on collecting data there and on supporting people from Central and Eastern Europe.
Okay. So Vel has a question. He asks, do you also provide sensors to measure the required microclimate?
So we do not provide sensors. Today, we're very clear on that. We're not a sensor company. So previously, 4 or 5 years ago, I founded Hiphen 8 years ago. At that time, we designed a multispectral camera, and we didn't achieve to have prices that were reasonable. So today, we decided that we are not a hardware company, but we are compatible with most hardware companies, and we would be very, very happy to use the data you're collecting with other companies. Often they're Chinese, and often it's really, really hard to compete with them.
Then Sebastian asks if you will send a presented slide deck after the webinar.
Of course. So you will have, we will send you an email with, I think, the pre-recorded webinars to be able to watch it again. And if you send us an email to contact to have a slide deck by itself, we can deliver it to you. Otherwise, you also have our brochures that is almost the same, that can be fully downloaded without even having your credentials on our website.
Yes, thanks. Ryan asked, where do you get your soil data from, and does it require sensors local to the trial?
So that's a great question. Soil is always a pain. So let's not minimize that. Um, today, today we do it mainly with, there's 3 ways to do it. And this, we could almost make a webinar to detail all that. The first way is to collect a priori information, by example, for satellites, because what, I mean, maybe to formulate it better, what do we want as information about the soil? What we want is the amount of water that the soil is able to hold. And what we want is the capacity of the plant to extract this water. So is the water tightly bound to the soil, or is it freely available for the plant? Those information can be retrieved through historical data with satellites and a little hydric balance model to simulate how much the plant is pumping of this water, and thus when the plant is dying is when there is no more water available. So this is something that we do, and there were a lot of research done on that. There are soil probes. So today, I must admit that's the way we're doing it most is adjusting our model through soil probes. And the last one is really knowing the intrinsic characteristic of the soil. So theoretically, it works. I must admit there's very little data on those things, at least with our current customers. But I think we know enough of a theory to make that happen if you have it.
Thanks, Alexis, for the answer. Then Damiano, did it understood how is it possible to plan a flight through a platform?
I don't understand the question.
I guess Damiano is asking, do we plan the season using the Cloverfield platform, or is it totally separate?
Great question. Today, we're not able to help you plan the season through Cloverfield. So it's what we call the implementation plan, and it's really project-based. So it will be a document that we will write together. Why are we not implementing it yet to Cloverfield? Because all our customers are having different needs, and we haven't yet found a way to specify the need in a way that works across all the cultures you're having. When you're working with flowers, or you're having repeated flowering, when you're working with wheat, when you're working with canola, you're working with sugarcane that doesn't get harvested always, or with trees. Um, the differences are so huge that to be able to plan that is something on which we're working on the specification currently. So I hope we'll be able to do that in maybe 2 years. For now, it's really project based, and that's why we need a minimum contract and blah blah blah. It's mainly because yeah, it's project based to be able to plan that. You will have an engineer and a project manager at Hiphen that is going to help you doing all the steps and formalize them. So this is very clear. And we're working in order to implement that in Cloverfield. But once again, it's a very complex topic because for one crop, it's simple to do. For everyone, in a way that is sustainable for us, it is a little bit more complex.
Thierry wants to know which sensor for which use.
Which sensor for which use? Good question. So generally, we advise our customers to use, for a start, RGB sensors on low-cost drones. So before it was the Mavic 2 Pro, now the Mavic 2 Pro doesn't exist anymore. So it's the Phantom 4 Pro V2 or the Hotel Evo Pro 2. Those drones are able to do UVF cover on big plants, the plant count and height. And then you can also have RGB vegetation indices like Vari that is very linked to the ground cover and a little bit to chlorophyll, but not that much. Then the second sensor is a very high resolution RGB camera. So there you're having much more resolutions, and it's used for complex deep learning algorithm, by example, counting wheat ears or detecting weeds, being able to split weeds or two different crops in one microplot, or to be able to detect and count fruits, etc., organs, basically. It's also done on disease. So we have some use cases on Sarcospora for sugar beet, by example. So that's the high resolution RGB. Then you're having multispectral sensor. Multispectral sensors are really cool because you need less resolution to be able to have an accurate F cover. It is, however, really of added value when you want something linked to nitrogen uptake, like chlorophyll content. Yeah, so it's you're going to collect less data and you're going to have more information when nitrogen is really a limiting factors for your cultivars. It is a little bit more tricky because calibration is a big issue with multispectral, and it makes the SOP, so the standard operating procedures, the way you fly your drone, a little bit harder to handle. But a lot of customers now are handling it very well. A lot of companies producing those multispectral sensors made a great job on calibration, so it can be handled, even if it's a little bit harder than RGB. Last sensor I can think, I mean, two last sensors I can think of, Lidars. So recently, Lidar price has really went down for drones. So Lidars and drones have existed for a long time. Recently, you can have some solutions, drones plus LiDAR for less than 20,000 euros or $20,000. So that makes it very accessible. The trait you can have there is height and also this notion of FI power, fraction of intercepted power, so photosynthetically active radiation. So the way the light is interacting with the canopy and gives you good indication of architectures. Last one is the thermal cameras. So there we don't have big revolutions for the last 5 years. Calibration is a huge issue. So basically, calibration is a huge issue, and the fact that in uncontrolled conditions as a field, the temperature of your canopy is changing a lot depending if you have wind and clouds, etc. But normally, temperature gives you a good idea of whether of your stomatal response and conductance, so whether your stomata are open or closed, and your evapotranspirating water. I think that's about all the sensors I can think of today. If there's more, don't hesitate to mention it in the chat. I hope the answer was complete enough.
Thanks, Alexis. Then Fabio has not really a question, but a remark, a comment. So there's a Brazilian company called Bemagro, do some drone images processing too, and they are focused on farmer, not really science. And he recommends us looking at them. And he
Cool.
also speaks about that he's a student at Coast, and we can do some collaboration with them.
Yeah, so we haven't mentioned it in this webinar. We make a lot of collaboration with academics and universities. The whole game always is to manage to have an economical that the collaboration also makes some economical sense. So when we work with university, we're not necessarily trying to make profit, but we need to find a way that is win-win on both sides, and we would be super excited to work with you.
In the same objective, Inder has a question. So would you support projects like internships or thesis, because he's a PhD student in Germany?
So we definitely support those types of projects. Once again, it needs to make an economical sense for us. So what we can do for sure is don't hesitate to exchange emails with us. We have Etienne David that is in our sense department. So we hired someone specially made for this type of collaboration with PhDs and internships. So really get in touch with us. Let us know your project. Let us know what you need from us, and then depending on how we can collaborate, well, we'll see if we make a contract, if actually it's a development that we will be able to value on both sides, or any win-win situation.
Felipe, did your algorithm train with previous work with different projects, or each new project with a new company you start over? How's the data protection system in Hiphen?
So, two things. Data protection.
Yeah.
So we're working with big companies, which are imposing us very strict regulations and data protections. So for that, we are trying to fill up the classic questionnaires about data protections, etc. And we have a score that we're happy to share with you. We have two IT engineers working almost full time on making sure the data is protected. So as usual in the world, you cannot have 100% protections, but I believe that the value of your data compared to the protection, the level of protection we put, makes it quite safe, or at least we're really committed to that. Regarding development of new traits, most of the traits are quite generic. So for most of the customers, we don't develop new traits. And when we develop new traits, actually, it's about plant counting, not on maize and sorghum, but on another crop that is a little bit similar, like sunflower, I don't know what. So those are things we're doing for free, and that we're reusing with everyone. If you're having a very specific traits you want us to develop and where there's no market, we're happy to do it, and we're happy also to not exchange this code. So this code that is being made will not be used with your competitors. Those are really things that we're used to discuss about, and we're happy to discuss it. Once again, most of the time, things are quite generic. Because it's generic, actually, I don't think that's where competition between breeders happens. But if you disagree, we're very happy to discuss that and to respect your decisions and while we work together.
Yes, precise answer. Thanks. Last question from Verly again. Do you have any experience with soybean?
So, yes, we do, but that's not where we have the most experience. So we worked a lot with soybean with the University of Tokyo. Um, I mean, it's with pleasure we can discuss together in details about what are the traits that interest you. Um, But yes, we already worked with soybean, and we focused with them more on biovolumes to have a kind of assessment of biomass. Yeah.
I don't have any questions left. So if there's any last questions, it's with pleasure that we are
So it's
listening.
already 42. So I think we can also let you all free, as you already took a lot of time for us. Thank you a lot for being here. Thank you a lot for listening to our tools. We are really looking forward working with you, and we're super excited on having new projects in this 2022 campaigns with all the people that listen to us. Alexandra?
Thank you. See you
Dankeschön.
soon.
À bientôt.
Goodbye.